Welcome to podcast. Can you believe it? It is 57, episode 57 of another fishing podcast. Welcome aboard. What are we going to be talking about today? Well, live streaming for Lake Sturgeon. We did it. Great crappie and walleye tips for hard water. Longer rods are better for ice fishing now. Did you know that? No, we're not going short rods anymore. Al Lindner, the man, my favorite angler, celebrity angler, expert angler. Al Lindner did a podcast that everybody's going to want to check out. And let's see here. AnglingBuzz went on a catfish quest to my favorite body of water for kiddies. And we're going to be talking about this OnX fish app. You've probably heard about it. I think it may be legit. We're going to be talking about so much more. Let's go!
This isn't another fishing podcast. This is another fishing podcast.
Last week, did a live stream with the man Pete Wagner, co-host of this podcast, believe it or not. We need to get him back in this. I'm working on it. He's a busy man. He's a family man running a grocery store business. So it's, he only has Wednesdays to fish. So that's when I'm trying just to fish. I'm trying to make like Wednesdays designated fish days. So, for sure, so that if Pete is able to, sometimes he's not able to fish on Wednesdays, but that is the best chance that he's able to fish. So trying to leave that window, that day open of the week to be able to fish with my main man, Pete Wagner. Did I say co-host of another fishing show? If you guys have been watching, have been a part of this nonsense since, gosh, I don't know, we've been doing this for on and off. I mean, we are older people, now. Pete is like 52. I am 49. And so it's just taken us a while to kind of go, oh yeah, this internet thing, yeah, we should, we just been dabbling with it. And now we're going, baby. It's the future, obviously, duh. So, we were out, I digress. We were out live streaming last week for Lake Sturgeon on the St. Croix River. And this will be the second time we've been out this year. And it's a fantastic fishery, lots of lake sturgeon in there. If you're near the area and you've never done it, you should definitely try it because it is so much darn fun. And I just, why wouldn't you like to catch big fish through the ice, right? So they get very, very big there. And I'm all about it. So very unique fishery, very prehistoric animal that you're able to catch through the ice. We did a live stream there. That would have been last week on a Wednesday. And so it was pretty darn cool because we were able to be joined by this gentleman right here, Darren Troseth. And he was fishing not far. He's a guide, Three Rivers Fishing Adventures, does guiding out of that outfit, which is his outfit, Three Rivers Fishing Adventures. Check him out. He guides on the Minnesota River, the Mississippi River, and the St. Croix River. So does a lot of cat fishing, a lot of sturgeon fishing. That's his specialty. And, Pete and I have really learned a ton from Darren, catfishing-wise and sturgeon-wise. So he heard that we were out live streaming, and he decided to come out and join us, which was very cool to have him in Pete's hub-style shelter. And, so that was in the live stream. I'm also going to be making an edited video out of this, too. I had other cameras than just my live streaming camera. So that will become an edited video as well. Going to be super instructional because I made kind of Darren the star of the show, to be honest. And just both Pete and I were quizzing him kind of relentlessly the whole time. So that was fun, live streaming and then also recording for a later edited piece. And also, what was very cool about this, the fact that Darren came out and found us, was that he brought his Garmin LiveScope unit out. And to be able to see, we have our 2D like transducers, just 2D sonar, with just regular transducers, regular kind of fish finders, down, using those. I've got this really old like Humminbird small little fish finder, but it does the job. I've been fine with it. Pete's got a newer kind of Garmin unit, nice unit, but it's just 2D sonar. So for Darren to come out and just show us what modern fish finders are like with the live sonar, and to be able to actually see sturgeon down there, like he could tell, you can tell that these are bigger fish. They're longer. You can basically determine the size that the sturgeon are with that live scope. So it was awesome to really know how many sturgeon were underneath us swimming around, and that live scope unit was able to do that. So that was a real treat to be able to see that, for Darren to bring that out. That was really nice of him to do that and kind of give us a primer on the live scope for sturgeon. And boy, I think after seeing that, Pete's going to be saving up his money to buy one, because I was intrigued too. I just don't have the money to do that right now, but I think Pete might. I don't know. He seemed very intrigued, and I would not surprise if he's already ordered one. So yeah, it was a great. It was so funny because I've never actually even fished with Darren before. I've done a podcast. I've done like 2 podcasts with Darren, and that's the first time I've met him in person. So it's just a new era, man. You like meet people and you have kind of like friendships over the internet. And really, I want to get better at reaching out to people that I've conversed with. Can you converse through social media? Had exchanges with on social media, positive exchanges with. And really try to I'd love to be able to just, the people that you kind of connect with on social media, go out and actually fish with them. So, Darren, it was great seeing you out there, buddy, if you're listening, and maybe we should try to do this on a more regular basis. So thanks for bringing the Garmin unit out and treating us to a great tutorial on sturgeon fishing with live forward-facing sonar. So that's going to be coming up. I'll have that edited. The goal here is to have an edited piece up on Fridays. So I've said this before, but this is what I want Angling Uploaded to be. Okay, so again, if you're listening to this for the first time, and if you have heard this spiel from me, I apologize. Okay, if you've heard this before, but if you are listening for the first time or watching this for the first time, the idea for Angling Uploaded, it's the umbrella brand, if you will, and everything underneath that. So another fishing show, which another fishing show. If you're not familiar, excuse me, I need to get a sip here of beverage. It's a crappie cup. You see that? Maybe you can see it. I don't know. Yeah, it's. I'm getting kind of crazy here. I want that crappie to be visible. I just like it that you guys can see that, because I really like this cup, this stainless steel cup, crappie cup of mine. I got a frog in my throat or something. So what was I talking about? Golly, this is the problem when you don't have a co-host to remind you what I was just harping about. Oh my gosh, I have totally lost my train of thought here. What was I talking about? See, this is the problem. I'm going to have to move on. I apologize. What the heck was I talking about? Oh, my thirst and my frog in my throat messed me up. Well, maybe it'll come to me. We'll just move on. And so, yeah, a lot of stuff going on in the fishing world right now. I am trying to go through the file folders in my mind, what I was talking about there. Garmin Live Scope. Oh, okay. Figured it out. I thought for sure that I'd lost that forever, but then I just settled down, went into my consciousness, and I pulled out that memory. Here we go. I remember what we were talking about now. So, Angling Uploaded. You got the Angling Uploaded. Okay, then you have another fishing show. Another fishing show is how Pete and I really kind of got into the internet stuff, making content, becoming content creators. The original idea before we did anything was, hey, we want to do a show, just a show that we'd want to watch, honestly. Like, let's build something, let's make something that we want to watch, a fishing show that we'd want to watch, So that's what we did with another fishing show. It's much more like your standard. The format of it is like something you would see. It's an interview, kind of like we interview each other and we go through the fishing day. It's kind of there's similar fishing shows like that out there, but I think we give it a little bit of a twist, a little bit of like an everyman kind of flair to it. And there's, alcohol drinking. Let's be honest, alcohol is consumed when you fish, and I don't see hardly any fishing content with people, drinking beer. Like, is this crazy? So once in a while, you'll see us drinking beer and fishing on another fishing show. So anyway, we want to make something that's more representative of a real fishing experience that the everyman goes through. Much more relatable. That's the idea for another fishing show. Okay, we haven't done it for a while because, number one, it's a lot to film and it's a lot to edit. But to me, it's kind of like it's sort of my art that I wanted. It's my contribution to the fishing world, and it's my art that I'm putting out there. So I really kind of go overboard with them because I care about fishing and I care about fishing production. And I've made it my career in my life. I'm in my basement. Look at this studio. I've made it. I'm trying to be like, we'll get into this later, but like in-fisherman, right? I am from that. I'm cut from that cloth. I am a child of in-fisherman. I am an offspring of in-fisherman. I know that sounds crazy, okay? But I was highly influenced by in-fisherman as a kid. Both Pete and I were. And so I like that kind of, they had radio. So this is our idea of radio, doing a podcast, right? And they had the edited show. That was In-Fisherman TV. Well, that for us is another fishing show. And then, we don't have any print, but maybe one day, I don't know, maybe we'll have an email newsletter we can do. So so basically Angling Uploaded, think of like In-Fisherman, right? And I know we're not in-fisherman, but I was brought up with in-fisherman. That's my model for excellence, okay? So Angling Uploaded, think of it, in-fisherman, underneath in-fisherman was in-fisherman, television. So think of another fishing show. They had radio, think of then another fishing podcast. And then they had various other like content that they provide. And think of that as the videos that we put up on Fridays. Okay, just content, maybe you can glean some information from that, but a lot less produced than another fishing show, something that we can get out much easier. That's the idea. Angling Uploaded, another fishing show, another fishing podcast, and then smaller content pieces. All right, so here's the schedule for Angling Uploaded. Is on Mondays, we put up another fishing podcast. Okay, so another fishing podcast goes up on Mondays. On Wednesdays, we're live streaming, baby. So that's when you get a live stream of some sort. I've got a 90-gallon aquarium I bought specifically for testing lures underwater. So I'd like to kind of make those into a live stream. So maybe it's a terrible day outside and we can't go out fishing on Wednesday. Well, I can do a live stream in here with some unique bait. Just, if you're curious about what it looks like underwater, because that's why I bought it. I'm like, what would people like to see? What do I want to see? And so I'm like, well, if I want to see it, maybe other people want to see it. And I'm seeing like underwater videos on social media that are just fantastic. And I'm like, I like that stuff. So I want to do live streams where we can test these baits underwater, talk about it. That's the idea for live streams with the tank, and then also Wednesdays out fishing live stream. So we've done that twice now for sturgeon, and it's been really fun. I'm dialing that in better. I've had some issues. Like the last time live streaming, it was so ridiculous. So out there in the cold, ice fishing for Lake Sturgeon, and when you start like a YouTube live stream, it's so frustrating because it wants to like lock in a vertical position. I'm trying to film in a horizontal position, and it gets locked in like a horizontal or in a vertical position. So that was tricky. That's kind of a pain when you're live streaming on YouTube. And then the other thing, we didn't have audio. The last live stream, we didn't have audio for like 5 minutes until I realized that on the live stream YouTube app live stream, the interface, it had the mic muted. So I was like, oh my God, this is so stupid. I'm checking wires and, what's wrong with something wrong with our mics. It was just this stupid button on the app that I just had to unmute, and then we had audio. So if you listen to that live stream or you watch that live stream back, that's what happened. Absolute stupidity. I don't know why. Unless it's very possible that I hit it, but it shouldn't be so easy to hit the mute button on the YouTube live stream interface. I think that should be remedied. So anyway, that's Wednesdays. I'm gonna live stream and then also just record for an edited piece what we're doing, how we're fishing, So that will be done on Wednesdays. And then on Fridays, we will be, that'll just be an edited, it's much more raw, just an edited fishing piece. Okay, that'll be put up. So that's the idea. For sure, though, I've put notes. I have when I edit, I put my a schedule next to me. I have it hanging up, and it's the schedule for the week, and I have notes that I've taken to keep me on track. And the biggest thing is that my main priority is this podcast. So in order of importance, it's this podcast every Monday, okay? And then a edited video is the next order of importance every Friday, and then a content piece, a live stream piece on Wednesdays if possible. I might kind of change that. I might kind of make it a live stream on Wednesdays is the second priority because it's easier to do. It's kind of more realistic. We're feeling things out right now, okay? But for sure, a podcast every Monday is doable. If you're just listening or watching for the first time, I'm a freelance videographer. A lot of what I do is outdoor related, is in the fishing realm of things. You can see my shirt here, excuse me. That's from a Toyota, it was a championship tournament. It was a Toyota Series championship, Major League Fishing. So I get free shirts and stuff, which is a definite benefit of the job I do. So I do a lot of stuff in the fishing realm, but I'm very thankful for that. Keeps me busy, but sometimes it'll, the stuff that actually is paying me right now will cut into this kind of work. So, but that being said, I do believe that Mondays are totally doable for a podcast every single week. So let's say this. So it's podcasts every Monday. Next order of importance is a live stream on Wednesday. Next order of importance is a edited piece on Fridays. So in a perfect world, and I'm going to try like hell to do all three of those every week, but that's the situation. For sure, podcasting on Monday. So thank you for listening to that. Let's go into the world of fishing. What has been happening in the world of fishing? And I want to thank Target Walleye, the newsletter, Brett McComas, and Jay Kumar at the Bass Blaster for providing me so much helpful insights into what is happening in the world. I do try to branch out. I do look at Instagram a lot too. But frankly, and I do save stuff that I've seen on Instagram. But frankly, Jay and Brett do such a great job with just keeping me up to date with everything. because Brett's over here, he's handling like the walleye fishing world and the ice fishing world, which is, as a Minnesotan, that's the world I'm living in. But I'm also in that bass fishing world. I really love bass fishing. I film a ton of bass tournaments. Jay Kumar keeps me tapped into the bass fishing, what's happening in the world of bass fishing. So it's just nice to have that, have them be able to really report on what's going on in the freshwater fishing world. So thank you guys for doing that, Brett and Jay. So check it out. If you haven't already, sign up to the Bass Blaster newsletter, email newsletter, and Target Walleye email newsletter. They do a phenomenal job. I think they're doing them two or three times a week. Those newsletters go out. So full of great information. And what do you say we get into it now? So, so this is the time of year when it's open water season. I don't crappie fish at all. I might change that this year. We have crazy kind of seasons here in Minnesota where a lot of species you just can't fish for, but crappies, panfish, catfish, you can fish for them. So when like the walleye and the bass seasons close, crappie fishing in open water, and honestly, catfishing I love to catfish anyway, but I just don't crappie fish that much unless it's wintertime. But open water, it's an opportunity. It's a kind of one of the few opportunities that you can do when the walleye and bass season is closed. So I will probably be doing more crappie fishing this year in open water. But in the wintertime, it's I love fishing for crappies through the ice. And that is why I'm sharing this particular piece with you right now, because not only is it going to provide me with some information to be a better crappie fishing crappie fishing man. Yes, I'm a crappie fishing man. It's going to be make me a better crappie fisherman. And I, especially in winter, I want to know how to do that better. And so I figured you guys would like this information as well. So this is from Target Walleye, and I have noticed this several times, even recently on the Horseshoe Chain of Lakes where I catfish through the ice, and I see it happening as the sun goes down. All of the creatures, the zooplankton. Do you say zooplankton or zooplankton? Let's say zooplankton. It's either zooplankton or zooplankton. I don't know. We're going to go with zooplankton. So this zooplankton, this very tiny life, these tiny life forms that live on the bottom in the sun, when the sun's out. The majority of them anyway. I mean, there's stuff throughout the water column. Don't get me wrong. There's life throughout the water column. But there's a ton of life near the bottom. And as the sun gets lower, and you'll see this on your sonar, as the sun gets lower and finally just drops down, beneath the horizon and it gets dark out, that life starts moving off the bottom. And your graph will show it. It's just fuzziness, near the bottom there. And that is zooplankton. And so this is a great article about that and how crappies are affected by that. So plankton, a big key for ice crappies. Deep water crappies can often be found following the vertical migration of zooplankton. Typically, we think of the magic hour as being sunrise or sunset. But it's important to remember that sunrise can be as much as an hour later under the ice. Is an hour later it's hour earlier, I think he means, right? Okay, sunrise can be as much as an hour. Okay, sunrise, got it. He's talking about sunrise. Okay, let me read that again. Typically, we think of the magic hour as being sunrise or sunset, but it's important to remember that sunrise can be as much as an hour later under the ice, thanks to the lack of light penetration. Increased light levels in the morning trigger zooplankton, such as Daphnia, to vacate areas higher in the water column and slide back towards the bottom. It's a similar situation towards the evening. Maybe you've noticed, and this is what I was just talking about, maybe you've noticed the bottom lighting up on your flasher near dusk. Zooplankton will begin to rise off the bottom as light levels drop, and they feed on microscopic plant-like organisms called phytoplankton. That is fascinating. Soft bottom basins in the 22 to 34 range are usually where the magic happens. So yeah, like a kind of a muddy bottom is what you're looking for here. And here is a picture illustrating that. And you can see he's got a waypoint, suspended crappies in the evening in what looks to be about 24 feet of water. Nice little basin waypoint there. That's why so often when fishing after dark basin crappies, you'll see them moseying through way up high in the water column. Sometimes they'll bite, other times they'll just slowly fade away and barely give your bait a sniff. If you're using a little jigging spoon, you might see them slide up and go for the swivel just 12 inches above the bait. Or maybe you're trying to trick them with a plain hook and a crappie minnow, but instead they bite at your tiny split shot above the bait. These are a couple of the only times you'll get an obvious clue that they're actually feeding on zooplankton and could care less about your little minnow profile baits. That's when it's time to bust out the finesse stuff. Light line, no heavier than 3-pound test, and ultra finesse tungsten jigs are key for these filter feeding crappies because they have a complete error. Try that again. That's when it's time to bust out the finesse stuff. Light line, no heavier than 3-pound test, and ultra finesse tungsten jigs are key for these filter feeding crappies because they have a compact profile, yet are still fishable in deeper water. There's a ton of different bait options out there, and you likely already have some of them in your box. I like anything that is small yet comes to life underwater with subtle movements thanks to its tentacles, appendages, hair, feathers, marabou, etc. Some examples of what I'm talking about are baits like the VMC tungsten bullfly jig, Euro tackle strider fly, tungsten roach jig, or small tungsten jigs rigged with microplastics like the clam Mackie, Jamie, Niki, etc. Yeah, Clam makes a ton of really good small dialed-in plastics, so check those out for sure. I've got quite a few of them. Let me make sure I'm on the right thing here. Zooplankton are virtually translucent, but basic colors such as straight glow, white, red, and black work great. It's more about the size, profile, and subtle action of the bait. If you're able to fish with a second line, don't be afraid to have a jigging spoon or live minnow hanging down there to help bring fish to you and keep them around and curious. But pounding your small tungsten fairly aggressively will also help to call fish in, but subtle jigging movements and quivers in place are what will seal the deal. So great information there on zooplankton feeding crappies in low light during low light periods. So it's one of those things I really wanted to kind of talk about this in this podcast today because I just not that long ago, that same thing that he described, sun went down and all of a sudden you see them moving up. It's really fascinating. And I've had a tendency to believe that when that happens, that zooplankton, it's harder to catch fish during that time, but honestly, when I've seen it mostly on the horseshoe channel lakes is where I've seen it most prominently, because I'm looking for I'm channel catfishing, and so I'm in the basin area looking for those channel cats, those wintering areas, and that's where the crappies are too often. And there is mud on the bottom. That's where those suckers are living. That zooplankton, that soft bottom, and I shouldn't just say mud. That's probably not the right way. It's a softer bottom. It's a lot of, I guess it's probably mud, but that just seems like not. It's mud. I think is more just like disgusting. Whereas this is a wonderful organic mixture of decomposing material. Let's just call it. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, all that stuff's living in there. Okay, and it's coming up. I guess it's feeling more secure, that zooplankton, or it's because of low light, or it's just because there's stuff, that's when it's time to eat for them, the phytoplankton. So I love all that information in there, and never really considered that crappies would be filter feeders. So is that actually what they're doing? Are they using their gills rakers to filter feed? I don't know. I'll have to look into that. But good information there. Target walleye. Thank you, Brett McComas. Moving on, we are going to, this is kind of going to be a target walleye. As a lot of these podcasts are, I'm not going to lie. I'm gonna glean a lot of information from target walleye, and I don't even know if I touch upon any Bass Blaster stuff. It's kind of a target walleye rich episode today. So yes, this is also fantastic information coming at you. Walleyes after dark on Cinemax. Here it goes. Where Jason Mitchell finds walleyes after dark. There's a 30-ish minute window we call the flash bite on lakes, on lots of lakes where walleyes are snapping at sunset. After that, the flasher goes blank. Now what? Go home? No, I don't think so. We're not going home. Because we've got these to catch. Here's Jason Mitchell holding a mighty fine walleye, big old girthy thing, okay? And I know that some people are listening to this podcast, so I will try to do a better job of describing what I'm bringing up on the video podcast here. If you are listening, you can watch the video podcast on our Angling Uploaded YouTube channel. Check it out. Go search Angling Uploaded on YouTube, and you can watch the video podcast. So let's get into this article here. These are details from Jason Mitchell's. I'm going to have to, my mouth is very dry. This is details from Jason Mitchell's virtual angling. Virtual angling, I believe that is an online magazine, okay, that Jason Mitchell has. Check it out, Jason Mitchell's Virtual Angling. Not all bodies of water offer solid night fishing opportunities for walleye, but there are so many notable fisheries where we have traditionally caught the majority of fish, or sometimes the largest fish, long after the witching hour when the sun sinks to the horizon. Often we figure out one window movement of fish, and when we quit marking fish, we assume that bite is over. The bite might indeed be over if we don't make any adjustments, but the reality is that we can prolong the bite and keep catching fish if we move with the fish. The toughest aspect of catching walleye well after dark is forgetting some of the lessons we tend to learn during the day. So often, finding and catching walleyes is all about reading structure and focusing on edges. After dark, however, you can throw that edge mentality out the window. My favorite after dark locations and patterns are not necessarily classic walleye structure or break lines that are close to deeper water. Typically, large flats or even basins and large shelves shine after dark. Walleyes will often push up and roam much shallower water than you'd think. I'm going to tell a little, that's super interesting. I'm going to give you sometimes I believe fish totally just follow contour lines. They are just, especially in clear water, they are following contour lines like highways. I've seen it as a kid. I used to live in Northern California, and there was this reservoir that I used to fish, and every morning when you'd go into this one cove, and it was an early morning thing. I want to say it was like right at sunrise. Water was super clear. You could see a creek channel that came, the creek channel was super prominent in the middle of this cove that we were in. I used to fish with a buddy like all the time. He's seen this too. Isaac Wilson, shout out to Isaac Wilson. And we'd fish together at this, like we'd just come to this cove all the time because we knew what would happen. The sun was just coming up, and a huge pack of largemouth bass would follow that creek channel in, okay? And once they got to the shallow part of the cove, they would then just disperse onto the flat to feed. It was so textbook, I couldn't believe it. It just has stuck with me all these years because it was so textbook. These fish were following the creek channel in. They followed it in. They followed it in like it was a highway. It was amazing. And then once they got shallow, they dispersed out onto the flat. Okay, so that's... Fish definitely follow contours, but that reminds me of, let me bring up, where are we at here? We are, I believe, right here. Oh gosh, what am I on? I'm on this one now. Yeah, so Jason's talking about how fish, once that sun goes down, yeah, those walleyes in the daytime, they are relating to those edges, But once that sun goes down, they're moving off into those flats where there's no edges. It's just they're moving off to feed. And it's really cool when fish are doing that. So it's the problem with ice fishing is that you need to be mobile. I believe he gets into this. So I've seen fish, and obviously it's a different species, but I've seen fish behave similarly to what Jason's describing. Obviously this happened in the daytime, but what happened with these, what I'm describing, but those fish, they were feeding at a low light period. It's very early in the morning when they did this. So there's my dog. Oh my gosh, my dog, little Pepe. I have a dog. Let me just digress for a second. Yeah, I have a dog upstairs that is a very nervous dog. And whenever I'm doing stuff like that, he's upstairs and he's sitting at the steps right at the at the top there above me, and he's just whining. Whenever I'm down here working, he's just whining, wants to be down here, he's anxious, drives me up a wall. But you might hear my wife come down and bring him down. I got a little dog bed right here. You might hear my wife come down and bring him down and set him down to be next to me because he feels more comfortable around me. And I think me podcasting right now is driving him. It's causing him to become an anxious ball of nerves. He's a Chihuahua Terrier mix. So it's just it's a breed of dog that's just constantly, anxious. So if you hear barking, you hear, my wife's upstairs trying to control our little Pocachon. I don't know what Pocachon means, but it's become his nickname. He's Poco Loco sometimes. He's Pocachon. His real name is Scratch. But let's get back into this, okay? Anyway, walleyes will often push up and roam much shallower water than you'd think. Okay, so back to Jason here. Jason says, I use the white-tailed deer analogy a lot when describing walleye patterns and movements. During the day, deer might follow an edge, but come middle of the night, they might be standing out in the middle of a soybean field that is several hundred acres. Walleyes can also be just as random after dark. That's super interesting. Because the exact location of fish can be so random on large flats and shelves, fishing these areas takes a certain kind of mentality. You can spread out tip-ups to increase the chances of contacting these roaming fish, or you can fish out of a shelter. But in this situation, you have to realize that the fish are going to have to find you. That's like so much of just ice fishing in general, is that your mobility is hampered, especially if you don't have an ATV or a snowmobile. So yeah, I think it's just, with some exceptions, I think sturgeon fishing, like we've actually talked about this on this last live stream. Sturgeon fishing, it depends on, if you have a lot of sturgeon in your system, but there's some species that maybe you don't want to move around so much. Sturgeon fishing on the St. Croix is an example of that. This isn't a situation where you can necessarily move around to find these random fish. Set up so that at some point during the night, these fish find you. What makes after dark patterns for walleye so much fun is that these fish are typically much more aggressive, and these fish are looking for a meal. On some fisheries, walleyes will also be more apt to eat much higher in the water column well after dark. We have seen many scenarios where we caught more walleye after dark by fishing halfway down in the water column, especially for big fish. This is particularly true for set rods and tip-ups with big bait. Don't expect activity all night long. Wait out the windows because 90% of the activity will happen during 10% of the time. So, yes, that is good information there that I found on target walleye. And Jason, let me make sure that I get that right. That came from his, let's see here. It comes from his virtual angling app. It might be from his app. Check out Jason Mitchell's virtual angling. It's either an app, I should know this, or a newsletter. And I think he also has a virtual angling YouTube channel. But anyway, Jason Mitchell's virtual angling, just Google that and you'll be able to learn all kinds of stuff. You'll be able to tap into Jason Mitchell's brain, which will immediately make you an excellent fisherman. All right, here we go. So moving on. Yeah, it's, let's see here. We want to talk about, so many times we've been told that, ice fishing, it's short rods, man. Long rods, the long rods, the 7 foot plus, I remember when short rods were a thing in open water. Like 6 footers even. I remember maybe there was even a shorter rod than that for like bass fishing, little pistol grip, accurate casting, But for the most part, open water has gotten to be about, longer rods are better. Better hook sets, more line off the water, the whole thing. So that is actually happening in ice fishing now. Ice fishing isn't so much about long rod or, short rods anymore. It's about let's go to longer rods, and the man, Brett McComas at Target Walleye, does a great job explaining why here long rods are the way to go. And just check this out. I thought Brett did a fantastic job explaining this, and now I'm going to have to get rid of all my short ice rods.
I promise you, once you use a longer ice rod, and I'm talking a long ice rod, there is no going back. This is a 44-inch ice rod. JT Outdoors Shiver Stick. Forever, the only thing you could get ice rods in was 28, 30 inches, maybe a 32. Now some companies are finally making 34, 36. This goes out to almost 4 feet long. And the benefits are ridiculous. Not only can you stand up when you're ice fishing, it's super windy, 30-mile-per-hour gusts right now. My rod tip is an inch from the ice hole. What that does is it eliminates all of the guesswork, and my rod tip to the lure is an instant connection for feeling bites. I'm not hunched over, I'm not having to be on my knees the whole time. I can actually stand up, stretch, be comfortable, and fish. Also, when you hook up with a fish, I guarantee you will land more fish with this long ice rod, because when they have those big head shakes, when they make big runs, it's so much easier to just flick your wrist, follow them down, follow them up, keep that line tight. I promise you, you will land more fish. Hook sets, another huge bonus. You ever been jigging, and by the time that fish finally decides it's gonna bite, you're up here and you're in an awkward position? Well, if you have a 30-inch ice rod and you swing, you're not moving that much line. A 44-inch ice rod, you're actually moving like 8 feet of line on a big hook set. So you're gonna catch more fish, you're gonna feel more bites, you can stand up and be comfortable while you're doing it. This one from JT Outdoors is a Shiver Stick, which is a very good finesse walleye rod for light spoons, average walleyes, what we all try to go out and catch. You can absolutely land a bigger fish on it, but it's a great all-around average walleye rod. Also really good for those bonus jumbos. These things froze up really quick because it's cold out here today, but another awesome rod for jumbo perch, big plus size panfish, but for me it really shines for finesse walleye tactics. This one's flying up. There we go. Oh, we got iced up line. It has just been a dream come true. That, if it's a perch, is a big one. It could be a little walleye. Man, the fishing's been good this year if you're able to get out and get after them. It's been so dang cold, but you know what? We're getting out. We're getting after them. We're putting fish topside. Let's see what this is. Turn your head, turn your head. We got us a Walter. I love it, man.
All right, well, there it is. Brett McComas hammering a walleye there on a longer, a 44-inch ice rod. So we're getting away from short rods to longer rods. Obviously, you need to make sure that you have a shelter big enough. You know, if you are going to be in a shelter, which a lot of people are doing the hub style shelters now, which that's not going to be an issue. A 44-inch rod, you're going to get better hook sets. The fact that, like, when you're standing, he makes a great point there. When you're standing and it's cold, maybe a little windy, you can get that rod tip down by the ice hole and keep that line from freezing up and getting all messed up and jacked up and everything. You can just have it down lower. You're also just going to have a better hook set, lower. Obviously, with a long rod, it's going to be a better hook set. So it's lots of benefits there. I thought Brett did a great job explaining that and also catching the fish. And he was catching some perch, yellow perch there as well. So I had never thought about the benefits like that to longer rods for ice fishing. So I thought he did a great job explaining that. So I wanted to share that with you. All right, moving on. We are going to now talk about, this is super exciting. So I have been fortunate to be able to do some work with in-fisherman in my job as a freelance videographer. And I think I first worked with Thomas Allen. Thomas Allen is a digital content manager. I believe that is his official title at in-fisherman. The first time I worked with him was I want to say it was like 2021, in the fall of 2021. And we were up trying to shoot a muskie show. It didn't work. It was bitterly cold. It was right at the end of the season. So the next time I worked with Thomas was this past fall, and I did 2 pieces with him. I did 2 segments, 2 in-fisherman segments with him that were awesome. One was, they were both smallmouth pieces. And then I also shot a kayak kind of tip with him. So I've gotten to spend a lot more time with Thomas, and really, honestly, I'm very encouraged by him that there's guys like him. And I wish that we could like clone Thomas and put him throughout the fishing industry, because he has a lot of passion. He really cares about the outdoors. He loves to hunt, loves to fish, and he knows the history. He's super passionate, like I said, but he knows the history of fishing, and he really loves media. And we're very similar in that respect. I grew up watching fishing shows. It really helped to even just further stoke the fire of my passion for fishing. So in-fisherman was a huge part of that. And I've told him a number of times when I've worked with him that, it's got to be something really amazing to now be a part of in-fisherman and, being such, having had in-fisherman be such an important part of our lives now, to just for him to be working for in-fisherman. And I just feel, even as a freelancer, to be working for him, I really don't take it for granted. I really think it's a treat to be working with them. So when I heard that Thomas, I had Thomas on a podcast, I don't know, 3 or 4 podcasts back. You check it out. Thomas, what's great about Thomas is that he's opinionated, but people who are opinionated care, okay? And I want people to care about the fishing industry. And Thomas cares. He really cares. And I love it, because we get in a boat and we both just talk about the problems with the industry, the things that are awesome about the industry, what can be done to make the industry better. We are very similar. And so Thomas was talking to me on the on the podcast I did with him that he's going to be doing this in-fisherman storylines where they go through, it's a podcast where they go through the history of in-fisherman. And man, that is right up my alley. So I heard that Thomas just did a podcast with the man, Al Lindner, who growing up and still to this day, like Al Lindner to me is the top tier. He is the pinnacle of what everybody in the fishing industry should strive towards. Okay, I've never heard, in all the times that I've worked in this business, I have not heard one bad thing. I've not heard one bad thing about Al Lindner. Everybody that talks about Al, everybody talks about how great of a guy he is. And so he's not only super nice, but just what he and his brother Ron built within In-Fisherman is truly remarkable. And I think if you're a freshwater fisherman, you owe the Lindners just in general a tremendous debt of gratitude. We all owe the Lindners a debt of gratitude for what they've built. And Al is just the fact that he's still out there and he's still passionate. He's so passionate about fishing, and he loves freshwater fishing so much. The fact that he's a Minnesotan, there's a lot of pride there. So I just, I love the man, and I've never even met him in person before, which is so remarkable that I've never met Al in person before. Of all the people I've met in the industry, I've never met Al. But I just wanted to show you this piece, this little teaser of this podcast with Al, and check it out. It's available right now. You can go to In-Fisherman TV's YouTube, okay? And it's the In-Fisherman Storyline podcast. I believe the podcast also, you can listen to it. I believe it's on all of the podcasting apps, so check it out. But this is, let me make sure I have all of this. So let me just read this. This is from Target Walleye. They brought this to my attention. It's the second part of an extended series that In-Fisherman is producing, celebrating 50 years. So basically, this is the 50th year of In-Fisherman. The legendary Al Lindner and his late brother Ron began In-Fisherman back in the 70s with lots of twists and turns along the way. Al shares some incredible stories about his early years before In-Fisherman was founded. We learn about what motivated him, how he learned the business, and how the great Northwoods beckoned the two brothers to a new home to begin one of the most influential fishing publications in history, no doubt. This is the first of several interviews with Al as he recounts his early days and what led them to Hayward. So interesting. I guess they went to Hayward first. I guess we'll learn all this in this podcast. So let me just play you a little teaser of this podcast, and I just get like warm fuzzies when I see this. So here we go.
You're listening to In-Fisherman Storyline, North America's top voice in multi-species freshwater angling. Here is your host, Thomas Allen.
So that buddy is there every single day.
Yeah.
And so North Long's kind of become our baby. But I remember seeing something. And did you guide out there early on? Was that one of your?
One of my absolute favorite lakes.
Because of the action, you're always catching fish.
Always catch fish. And when I was guiding, I was one of the few guides that guided bass at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, you had to be one of the only ones in Minnesota.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was, I had a good following with the Bass Brigade.
Yeah.
Bass and pike, I'd go to North Long and you just smoke them.
God, we've had some fun out there.
Walleye fishing, you go to Pelican and Gull.
Well, if you want
Edwards on a sleeper.
Tom, my son's been out there the last couple of days. It's been tough, but he's kind of starting to get him dialed in. Caught a few walleyes. Yeah, 2 walleyes, 3 walleyes last night.
Okay.
So, hey, if you recognize that voice, that's Mr. Al Lindner, and this is a very special edition of In-Fisherman Storyline. We've decided to tell the greatest fishing story of the modern era. Maybe the greatest fishing story is Jesus telling the disciples to cast a net on the other side of the boat. I've tried that. It doesn't work very well. But Al Lindner is here with me in studio, and we're going to get the full version of In-Fisherman from the start. And in this particular episode, we're going to dive into Al and Ron's childhood in Chicago. And I'm hopeful there's some golf course trespassing stories, because we had some of those with Mark Zona when we opened up this feature. And it's the 50th anniversary of In-Fisherman. 50 years,
50
Al.
years already, man.
We're actually finishing up the 50th. That version of the magazine is getting kicked out. Might be the end of this week. Might be today. I'll have to check with Rob. But the 50th anniversary of In-Fisherman magazine is going to press right now.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Did you ever
like a flash in time?
Well, and I'm learning that. I'm not as seasoned as you are, but as I'm getting to the age where I'm starting to I need to slow down. The stuff's going too fast. I've got a kid that's going to be a senior in high school next year. My daughter is an amazing cross country skier, and I'm like, where'd these days go? You're right. It goes fast. But did you ever imagine when you guys first thought of creating a content stream that it would turn into what it did?
No. You kind of had a dream a little bit, but until you started to put your toe in the water and you really didn't know what happened. Mm-hmm. It's like anything else. You got to put the boat in the water.
That's right.
And then you start getting a feel for it. You got to start someplace, and that's where it starts.
Oh, that is such great advice there. That please take that in, take that all in, what Al just shared right there. You might have an idea about something, and you might be like, "Oh, that's crazy," but you might really believe it's a great idea. You have got to start. You have got to start. You got to dip your foot. You dip your toe in. Dip your toe in, man. You've got to start, because look what they started. Al and Ron, they dipped their toe in, okay, just a little bit, and look what In-Fisherman became, and that I love hearing that. Thomas does a great job. Thomas has got this great just a radio voice, he's a great broadcaster. He does a fantastic job hosting In-Fisherman, but also as a radio guy. I call it podcasting is radio, okay? It's just modern radio. He's phenomenal. So I like those two. I like what Thomas is doing. Thomas, heck yeah, buddy. I love it. Let's go through. In-Fisherman is so important. Tell that story. And then you're going to be able to glean little things from it that can help you in your life. I am not a religious man, but what I really appreciate about Al is that he's never hid any of that he is, he's a devout Christian, and I respect that immensely. That's a big part of his life. So he puts that into his work. At the end of the television shows that he does, he talks. He'll read from scripture, and it's from what I've heard about Al, and they'll probably get into this in the podcast. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Thomas brings this up. Is they were a little rough. Both Al and Ron were pretty rough in the beginning. They were kind of wild, and I think Christianity kind of turned them around. I believe that is a, and I think I heard this probably from Al in an interview somewhere. So I'm just really looking forward to listening to the rest of that podcast. I think the world of Thomas, and obviously, as I've been harping on and on about Al, I think the world of Al. So I think it's important that story gets told, and I really am super excited and glad that Thomas is telling that story. So make sure you check that out. It's called In-Fisherman's Storyline, okay? In-Fisherman's Storyline. You can watch it right now on In-Fisherman TV, on their In-Fisherman TV's their YouTube channel, okay? And I'm sure it's on all the podcasting apps. So if you are a fishing geek, you need to be listening to that. All right, so yes, we got to get into this. If you've been listening or watching any of our nonsense, that I love to catfish. I love catfishing in open water. I love it through the ice, but it has been the place that I go to. It's no secret. It's a horseshoe chain of lakes near Richmond. It's like Richmond, Minnesota, Cold Spring, Minnesota. It's a chain of lakes. The Sauk River got dammed, and it backed up and connected the Sauk River. So the Sauk River, okay, what happens? It's basically what a reservoir is a dammed river. So it's essentially like a reservoir, but it also, when it flooded, it also it connected other lakes to it. So you have a chain of lakes that are full of catfish. And when I started fishing for catfish on the horseshoe chain of lakes, I would catch them on the regular. Nearly every time I'd go out, I would catch them. But they were smaller. They were stunted in there. The average size is, I'm not good with, I don't know, what is that? It's like it's a 24 inch. I'm more of a, like walleye fishing and everything else, you just go by inches, and bass, it's pounds. So, but we're looking, a lot of them were like 20 to 24 inches, something like that, and I don't know, 18, let's say 18 to 24, maybe even a little smaller than that. But they were like cookie cutters, smaller catfish is what I'm trying to get across here. Okay. Now, well, here's what happened. They put regulations on where you can keep because they wanted to, people were complaining. The guys up there don't like catfish for the most part. The local anglers up there are like, every time I go up there and people find out I'm fishing for catfish, or I'm asking, hey, you guys catching catfish? They look at me like I'm crazy, or like, wow, those things are disgusting. I think that's so ridiculous, number one. Why wouldn't you want to catch a big fish through the ice that pulls like crazy? I mean, what are we out fishing for here, okay? If you want it, go to a grocery store to go get some food. I think we're too... In general, there's too much emphasis. I know people are going to hate me for saying this. Some people are. I think there's too much emphasis in the state of Minnesota on food fish, okay, is going out and it's like walleyes. It's straight out of the system because you taste wonderful. But so where am I going with this? So basically with catfish, people think they don't taste good. And so they're like, they're disgusting. Well, here's the reality. In the South, channel catfish are a delicacy. So this idea that catfish don't taste good is nonsense, especially in cold water. My point in bringing all this up is that we need to appreciate channel catfish more, okay? And that fishery up there, the horseshoe chain of lakes, should be respected. And it should be, the cat fishery should be respected. There isn't a whole lot of situations like that where you can catch catfish through the ice. And now they're getting bigger in there. So you can get, you have an opportunity to catch big catfish through the ice. So my hope is that the locals up there will have more of a respect and understand just how special of a place they actually have, where you can catch channel catfish through the ice. And they are, I'm going to show you here, they're much bigger in there, much bigger in there. So my plea to the locals up there, please start appreciating the fishery that you have, this catfish fishery that you have, because there aren't a whole lot of places where you can do it, okay? Not every fishery has to be a walleye fishery or a crappie fishery, okay? Let's have one really kick-ass catfish fishery and not complain about it and not ruin it. That's my concern. So what happened on the horseshoe chain of lakes is they allowed people to keep more of the catfish out of there, and those stunted catfish have gotten much bigger. They're not stunted anymore. The competition has been thinned out, so now those catfish, there's less catfish, so those catfish can grow bigger and not get stunted. So let me show you a prime example of this. This is Jim Lindner and friends from AnglingBuzz. They go to my favorite catfish destination, the horseshoe chain of lakes, and they catch a big catfish here. Wait till you see this.
You got one working, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, he's just covering the bait up. Got him, there he is.
You got him.
Oh, he was just all over it. I'm like, he looked like he was gonna bite.
I got to get down imagery.
Look at that, right there.
Or I mean,
That's why you
live
come fishing for cats.
sonar, rather.
CCI's just torqued. I think we got a nice one. I think it's a nice one. Oh, man. Ooh, don't like that. Catching on the ice. You know what was cool? I had the Mega Live in down view, and we just had a massive school of cats come through. I mean, it was just one after another, and then all of a sudden this guy, and there just felt just that slow take. Just kind of took the rod tip, just started to barely bend and set the hook, and he was
What do
there.
you think there, Mr. Wallace?
I like this.
Yeah, I know.
I see why you do this.
Yeah, I know. That's why you got to have those soft action rods.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, it was just such a subtle take.
I know, but the thing is, you still the way you got to fish them is still really super finesse.
Yeah.
It's really super finessey. That's the deal for catching cats. Wow, holy mackerel.
Feels like I'm hooked on the bottom.
See, earlier it seemed like the way he was.
Oh,
swimming.
Hayes. I'm in Hayes's. Yeah, I'm in you. I was caught in that for sure.
Yeah, now he's coming.
Yeah, now we're. Oh, there. He's huge. He's huge.
Is he?
Huge.
Wait till you see the size of this
of
catfish.
him. Holy crap! Look at that.
Oh
It's a big,
my
it's a big,
goodness,
It's a big
he's
one.
a magnum, boys. Okay.
Come on.
If he runs, I got him.
He's a really
Yeah.
big, and he's hooked in the mouth.
Yep.
It's a great big one.
Yeah, no,
It's like look at
magnum.
the size of the fish right here.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Oh boy.
20 pounds.
Yep.
Yep.
20 pounds. A 20-pound channel cat.
I told you you'd really like this, Jake. Easy. Can you get underneath him?
Oh, he's got his fin pecked out.
They can't get him through the hole.
No, and it won't go through the hole.
Yeah, but
Can you get Craig?
You have him by the mouth?
no, I'm trying to.
Yeah, he won't open.
He won't open up,
It'll crush your thumb.
and he won't put his fin down. He's just wedged himself right in the hole.
No, you'll have to lift him in. We'll have to get him. You can't get a grip on him. You got him. Wow, it's a good one. There you go.
There we go, boys.
Now that's what you call
That's a kitty right there.
I mean, the size structure of that fish,
man.
that is
Wow.
a
Wow.
goodness gracious.
Pretty animal, man. Wow.
That fish is built. I mean, the horseshoe
To
chain
let him go, we're gonna have to cut another
is
hole.
representing
fatten
y'all.
up our hole here a little bit. Okay, there you go. Wow.
Look at that fish. It's just a
real beast,
perfect
beast and a half.
specimen. Just thick.
There he goes.
How do you like your first cat?
I want to do this. I want to keep catfishing. I get used to this.
That was good.
My goodness gracious almighty. Yeah, so the horseshoe chain of lakes is the thing about it, though, that's frustrating. So I've been out there once this year and did a video on it. You can check it out. It is, what did I call it? I called it Quest for Catfish on the Horseshoe Chain. And I went out there. I hadn't done this in a long time, and I went out to one of the lakes of the Horseshoe Chain and just could not. I mean, the lake that I went to is the lake that I've been going on every time. You know, I ice fish for catfish, and I've caught the heck out of them before on this lake, and it's just nothing. The spots that I'd go to, you know, in the winter, catch them good. They're just not there. So, and it's got to be because there's fewer of them. And they're doing something different. They're as bigger fish, they're doing something different. It's fascinating, really, because the same lake, I've caught them in open water, and they're big, and yet I can't catch them in this lake in the winter where I've caught them in the past, many years ago now, I guess, when they were stunted. So as bigger fish, they're doing something completely different. I'm going to have to rethink a lot of things now. About how to catch catfish through the ice up there. I need to do it because I want to experience catching bigger catfish through the ice now that they're in there. Just like what we just saw James and the AnglingBuzz crew doing. So, yeah, but super encouraged to see that big of a catfish. They said 20 pounds. It certainly looked like a 20-pound catfish. It's getting into that kind of like Red River kind of look of what's that place? Selkirk. Is that right? Where the giant channel catfish up in Canada, Manitoba. I think that's Selkirk sounds right. But they're looking like that Red River kind of big channel cats. They're starting to, like that one that they just caught, I just showed you. That body structure is looking like a Red River channel cat. I am super pumped about it, but I got to figure out how to catch them. So that is the mission this winter. I'm going to go up there again. I have some intel that I think will serve me well. All right, so we are getting close to wrapping up here, but want to tell you about kind of what's happening in the world of Angling Uploaded and what to kind of expect. I am going to try to do a live deal again with Pete on Wednesday. Probably do a Lake Sturgeon thing again, depending on the weather. I mean, we've had a warm up here a little bit, so I don't know. I got to look at the forecast. If it's warmer, we might go to Red Wing. Might do some walleye fishing. Not sure exactly yet, but it's either probably going to be walleye fishing thing live streamed on Wednesday, which would be February 5th. So just keep your finger to the wind hand. Like your finger to just hey, is Angling Uploaded doing anything? They're supposed to be live streaming Wednesday. We might be doing it. Definitely going to try to do it, but I'm not sure whether it's going to be Lake Sturgeon or Red Wing walleyes. If you're not familiar with Red Wing walleyes, there's a warm water discharge right below lock and dam number 3. It's part of pool number 4. I'm always stupid with this, pool number 4. And it's right below lock and dam number 3, these walleyes this time of year. I mean, everybody and their brother fishes there this time of year because it's open because of a nuclear power plant, the warm water discharge. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great option to have for open water fishing in the winter, and you can catch a lot of walleyes, a lot of sauger, and some of those walleyes get big. There are plenty of big walleyes in the river. So might do a live stream there, and I would obviously be filming to record too for an edited piece later. So we're planning that on Wednesday, doing a live stream. I'll let you, I won't be able to. Hopefully that's going to happen is what I'm trying to say. Friday, though, February 7th, I wanted to get this piece up last week, but that did not happen just because of life, But I did this. I'm going to call it something like Blustery Bass on the Mississippi River. That video, I have not yet even touched it as far as editing, but it is I want to get this video up Friday, February 7th at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is the goal, but it's me out on the Mississippi River, also thanks to a nuclear power plant, the discharge from a nuclear power plant. And I was out fishing for smallmouth bass with these Great Lakes Finesse snack craw. It's a super cool bait, little 1/8 ounce stealth ball head, Great Lakes stealth ball head fishing. That I had that snack craw rigged on there, and just dragging it slowly along the bottom, and was able to catch some smallmouth in one of the most miserable days. I'm not going to lie to you. We had a real nice warm-up. That's why I was out there. I try to get out there anytime it's above freezing. And in the morning, it was going to be calm, but I knew that the winds were going to start picking up around noon. The problem is I didn't get out there until right before noon. And as soon as I got my kayak all set up, got the cameras on it, and got all rigged up and everything, as soon as that happened, I'm ready to go. The wind started picking up. Crazy cold front where temperatures got super cold. I was right in that transition period, and sustained 25-mile-an-hour winds, 35 gusting in a kayak, but the smallmouth cooperated. So I'm trying to get that edited and out the door. So look for that Friday, February 7th at 5 p.m., okay? I'm going to try my darndest to get that up there. So also want to bring up, so you probably heard about the Onyx Fish app. And I'm a little bit skeptical of any kind of app that comes out for fishing. I think a lot of them are nonsense, but I think the apps for, let's say, like the Humminbird app, I think it's called the Fish Strike app. I think those apps where you can, the app and your fish finders are communicating essentially together, and you have all the information on your app that you'd have from your fish finder. I think those are super useful. So when I heard about the Onyx Fish app, which is uses GPS, it's got mapping, it gets, has contours, I'm like, is this an app that's really necessary if you already have like a Humminbird app, that you can kind of just pair with your fish finder? Is it, going to offer you anything different than that? And the more I've signed up for it, I actually have it on my phone now. There's like a free trial. They're going to start charging for it at some point. But I'm like, let me just see this thing. Let me see what its capabilities are. And honestly, there's a lot of like press about it now. But honestly, I am impressed with it so far. The mapping's super awesome. The fact that you have right in one app, you have the data on, let's say there's a body of water that you're like, I don't know. If there's any fish in there, what kind of fish are in there? What is the size structure of fish in there? You can, hit that lake on your app, and it's going to bring up all of the fish that are present in there. And it's going to give you like the Department of Natural Resources, like sampling data. So you can do some intelligence and determine whether it makes any sense to go out there and fish, in this body of water you've never fished before. So for like scouting, I think it's legit. I'm more and more kind of thinking the Onyx Fish app is a legitimate fishing app that will help you. It's not a gimmick at all. So with that being said, I wanted to pass along this. They're actually going to be doing a masterclass of sorts. So it is going to be on February 4th, 2025. That's this year at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. They are doing a class, an Onyx Fish 101 Master the App class. Join the Onyx Fish crew on Tuesday, February 4th at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time for an introductory tutorial on how to get the most out of the Fish app. Enjoy a live Q&A throughout the class, enter giveaways for free gear, and walk away with a better knowledge of how to use the Fish app to its full potential, both on the water and on the ice. Attendance is limited, so register today. So I am going to sign up for that, and I think you should too, because I do believe, I've been fiddling around with this thing, I do believe it will be helpful. Now, I'm curious what this is going to cost monthly when they start charging. If it's reasonable, I don't know what reasonable is, but if I feel it to be reasonable, I'll keep it. I might just, I like their strategy. They're like, give this to people free, and it's like heroin. They're gonna get hooked on it. This is what I'm kind of hoping, actually, that it's so good that I'm like, I'm gonna have to pay for it, I guess. So, but so far, I think it is legit. You can also, with this app, you can determine like what's private land, and what's public. So, like accessing with a kayak or just wade fishing, or dragging, like for ice fishing, I can park at the road and I can drag my sled or whatever onto the ice. It's public land. I think it's going to be very valuable. And this tutorial that they're doing, this online kind of tutorial that they're doing, I want to sit in on that because it's probably going to enlighten me to a lot more capabilities that this app has. So check that out. To be able to to sign up for the masterclass, Google Onyx Fish. That comes up. Get on their website and then go to the click on the masterclasses on their website. It's right at the top on the right, masterclasses. Click that, and then you could register for that online tutorial. Alrighty, so we are wrapping up. How do you find us? If you are, you're listening to this, maybe you want to watch the podcast, well, you find it on Angling Uploaded. That is our social media. Let's not call it social media anymore. Let's call it new media. So there's new media. I would argue maybe better media, and then there's legacy media. So new media, man, all the new media, Angling Uploaded is on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Instagram. We're not on TikTok because I'm like, they're gonna get rid of TikTok. I don't want to invest all this stuff in TikTok, and then the government's like, no, TikTok is we're getting rid of TikTok. So I haven't done anything with TikTok. So Angling Upload is YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Instagram. You can find us there. And then if you are just watching this and you want to listen to another fishing podcast, well, another fishing podcast is available on all podcasting apps. Okay, so maybe you want to listen to this in your car. You don't want to just be, holding your iPhone and watching it on your smartphone. Listen to us on all the major podcasting apps. So with that being said, have a wonderful week. Catch lots of big fish, and I will see you soon.